self-improvement can keep you broke. Not because learning is bad, because learning can become a hiding place. You watch discipline videos, you save productivity threads, you read about wealth, you study habits, you collect strategies. But your life still has no measurable output, no published work, no sales attempt, no portfolio, no skill proof, no income experiment, no reputation asset. You are not becoming dangerous, you are becoming informed. And informed men with no output are still harmless to reality. Machiavelli would not ask how much you know. He would ask, what has your knowledge changed? Bill Gates and Paul Allen did not become dangerous because they understood computers. They became dangerous when knowledge became alter basic, code that could be demonstrated, licensed, and sold. Jeff Bezos did not become rich because he understood the internet. He became dangerous when the trend became a store, the store created orders, and the orders proved demand. That is the law. Knowledge is not power until reality can measure what it produced. And this is where most ambitious men lie to themselves. They believe their private intelligence should count. They believe their notes should count. They believe their saved videos should count. They believe their intention should count. They believe the version of themselves they imagine should count. But reality does not reward the man you are planning to become. Reality rewards what has already entered the world. A published piece, a tested offer, a practiced skill, a visible body of work, a message sent, a page written, a project built, a result tracked, a proof that another human being can inspect. Until that exists, your knowledge remains private. And private knowledge has no leverage. It may comfort you. It may make you feel sharper than the average distracted man. It may let you look down on people who waste their nights on obvious entertainment. But there is a darker kind of waste. There is the man who wastes his life-consuming content that makes him feel superior to the people who are wasting theirs. He is not watching random entertainment. He is watching discipline. He is not scrolling nonsense. He is studying strategy. He is not avoiding his future. He is preparing for it. That is what he tells himself. But the market does not care what he calls it. The market does not reward the name you give your delay. It rewards contact with reality. And this is why self-improvement can keep a man broke. Not because learning is useless. Learning is necessary. But learning becomes dangerous when it replaces exposure. A man can watch 10 videos on discipline and still break every promise to himself. A man can read about wealth and still make no offer. A man can study confidence and still avoid the first public attempt. A man can learn strategy and still have no position. He becomes fluent in the language of power, but owns none of its consequences. He can explain leverage, but he has none. He can explain discipline, but his calendar exposes him. He can explain business, but nobody has paid him. He can explain personal branding, but nobody knows what he does. He can explain confidence, but one rejection still controls his body. This is not ignorance. This is disobedience to known truth. And that is a colder problem, because ignorance can be corrected with information. Disobedience requires humiliation, structure, and proof. Most men do not want that. They want another insight. They want another framework. They want another clean idea that gives them the feeling of motion without the cost of motion. But every time you consume truth and refuse to act on it, you weaken your own command over yourself. You teach your mind that knowledge does not have to become behavior. You teach your body that clarity does not require movement. You teach your identity that it can claim ambition without producing evidence. And eventually, the gap becomes unbearable. You know too much to respect your excuses. But you still produce too little to respect yourself. That is the trap. Pain arrives. You feel behind. You feel unseen. You feel judged by family. You feel doubted by friends. You feel replaceable at work. You feel like your ambition is real, but your life has not proven it yet. So you look for relief. You watch advice. The advice gives clarity. Clarity gives temporary control. For a moment you feel like the man you want to become is still possible. Then the video ends. Reality returns. The page is still blank. The message is still unsent. The application is still unfinished. The offer is still imaginary. The skill is still unpracticed. The body is still unchanged. The reputation is still invisible. Guilt returns, so you watch more advice. And the loop repeats. Pain, advice, clarity, avoidance, guilt, more advice. This is how a man can lose years while still feeling serious. And understand the danger. This does not feel like laziness. Laziness is easy to condemn. This feels responsible. This feels intellectual. This feels strategic. This feels like you are avoiding mistakes. But sometimes what you call avoiding mistakes is just avoiding evidence. Because evidence can wound you. Evidence can show that your first video is weak. Evidence can show that your sales message is clumsy. Evidence can show that your portfolio is thin. Evidence can show that your skill is not yet valuable. Evidence can show that the market is not impressed by your intention. And that is exactly why evidence is necessary. It kills fantasy early. A man who refuses evidence gets to remain impressive in his own imagination. If he never publishes, he can imagine he would be good. If he never sells, he can imagine people would buy. If he never applies, he can imagine he is qualified. If he never practices publicly, he can imagine he is talented. If he never measures anything, he can imagine he is improving. This is the hidden comfort of learning. Learning protects the fantasy. Output threatens it. But output also gives you the only thing fantasy cannot give. A bad first video teaches more than 10 saved tutorials. A weak sales message teaches more than another persuasion thread. A rejected application teaches more than endless career content. A rough portfolio piece teaches more than thinking about your potential. The first output is not meant to prove you are excellent. It is meant to reveal what reality requires next. That one sentence separates operators from spectators. The spectator wants knowledge to protect his identity. The operator wants output to expose the next move. This is why Bill Gates and Paul Allen matter here. They did not simply see the future of personal computers. Seeing the future is not enough. Many people see trends. Many people talk intelligently. Many people recognize opportunity after opportunity and still remain powerless. Gates and Allen saw the Altair 8800, but opportunity did not reward their interest. The machine needed software. The market needed something usable. They had to build. Gates wrote that in 1975, after intense work, they demonstrated their basic interpreter to Ed Roberts of MITS. The demonstration succeeded. MITS licensed the software. Altair Basic became the first product of the company they called Microsoft. That is the mechanism. Knowledge became code. Code became demonstration. Demonstration became license. License became product. Product became company. Notice the chain. There was no mystical transformation. There was no motivational secret. There was no vague attraction of success. There was conversion. Private knowledge became a usable asset. A usable asset entered reality. Reality responded. And response created leverage. Most men stop before the chain begins. They see the opportunity. They understand the trend. They study the tools. They watch the tutorials. They can explain the market. They know what could work. But they never create the asset the opportunity requires. No product, no demo, no service, no offer, no proof, no first customer, no public body of work. So their knowledge remains private. And private knowledge has no rank. It has no bargaining power. It has no reputation. It has no gravity. It cannot attract customers. It cannot attract employers. It cannot attract allies. It cannot make doubters revise their judgment. It cannot make the world update its view of you. You may know more than people ahead of you. But if they produce and you only understand, they will still outrank you in reality. That is not fair. That is not moral. That is not comforting. It is simply how the visible world operates. People cannot reward the ability. They cannot inspect. They cannot hire the skill. They cannot see. They cannot trust the discipline that leaves no record. They cannot respect the ambition that never turns into proof. This is where unsupported men must become cold. Stop waiting for belief. Belief is not required. Evidence is. Your family may not understand your ambition. Your friends may not support your direction. Society may not notice your effort. None of that changes the law. If your growth is invisible, the world will treat it as non-existent. If your skill is hidden, the market will treat you as replaceable. If your discipline creates no record, people will keep judging you by your old identity. This is why the man who keeps explaining himself loses power. Explanation asks people to believe what evidence has not yet proven. Proof changes the cost of disbelief. That is the point. Do not ask them to believe. Build until disbelief becomes expensive. And if this is already hitting the place you do not usually admit, then do one thing now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and write one measurable output you will complete this week. Not a dream, not a mood, not a vague plan. One output. Because the man who cannot name the proof usually has no proof coming. Machiavelli understood this better than most modern teachers of success. He was not writing motivational content. He was a Florentine diplomat, official, and observer of power. His world was not built on affirmations. It was built on alliances, betrayal, reputation, force, timing, incentives, and consequences. He did not begin with what people should reward. He began with what reality does reward. In The Prince, he writes, "It appears to me more appropriate to follow up the real truth of the matter than the imagination of it." That line is not soft philosophy. It is a knife. Because most men do not live in the real truth of their condition. They live in the imagination of their future identity. They say, "I am becoming disciplined." Reality asks, "What did you complete?" They say, "I am learning about wealth." Reality asks, "What did you sell?" They say, "I am building my mindset." Reality asks, "What changed in your behavior?" They say, "I am preparing." Reality asks, "Preparing for what exact action?" This is where Machiavelli destroys self-deception. The real truth is not what you feel after consuming a strong idea. The real truth is what remains when the feeling disappears. The real truth is not the note. It is the action the note commanded. The real truth is not the video you watched. It is the output the video forced into the world. The real truth is not your private belief that you are different. It is the visible evidence that makes treating you as ordinary less accurate. Self-improvement consumption is often imagination. Output is real truth. A note can hide, a plan can hide, a saved video can hide, a private identity can hide. Output cannot hide. Output enters the field. It can be judged. It can be ignored. It can be rejected. It can be improved. It can be measured. It can attract response. It can reveal weakness. It can expose skill. It can begin reputation. That is why fearful men avoid it. Not because they are lazy, because output removes the protection of potential. Potential is comfortable because it cannot be disproven until tested. A man can say he is capable for years if he never puts capability into a form. Reality can inspect. He can preserve the identity of being talented. He can preserve the identity of being misunderstood. He can preserve the identity of being early. He can preserve the identity of being not ready yet. But the moment he produces, the fantasy loses privacy. The world answers. And that answer is the beginning of power. Not because the first answer is always positive. Often it is not. The first answer may be silence. No views, no replies, no sales, no interview, no praise, no interview, no praise, no applause. But silence is still information. Rejection is still information. Weak performance is still information. A man who receives feedback can adjust. A man who avoids feedback only protects his confusion. This is why more knowledge becomes poison when it postpones contact with reality. Sometimes you need more knowledge. You may need to learn a tool. You may need to understand a market. You may need to study a skill. You may need to watch examples. But many men cross a line. They are no longer learning to act. They are learning to avoid acting. They say, I need to understand more before I publish. I need one more course before I sell. I need more confidence before I apply. I need more strategy before I start. The words sound responsible. The pattern is cowardice wearing discipline. Because the real issue is not information. The real issue is contact. Without contact, there is no feedback. Without feedback, there is no correction. Without correction, there is no skill. Without skill, there is no proof. Without proof, there is no reputation. Without reputation, there is no leverage. Without leverage, your life remains theoretical. And a theoretical life is one of the most humiliating prisons for an ambitious man. Because he can see the possibility. He can describe the strategy. He can understand the game. But his body has not entered it. His hands have not paid the cost. His calendar has not obeyed the truth. His reputation has not moved. His income has not moved. His position has not moved. He becomes heavier with unused intelligence. And unused intelligence turns bitter. It starts looking for excuses. It blames family. It blames friends. It blames society. It blames the economy. It blames timing. Some of those forces may be real. Support matters. Networks matter. Money matters. Environment matters. But none of those facts remove your obligation to produce evidence. The unsupported man does not get to wait for ideal conditions. He has to build under pressure. He has to convert isolation into structure. He has to convert exhaustion into smaller output. He has to convert doubt into proof. He has to become the man whose record speaks louder than his explanation. That is the discipline beneath the discipline. Not waking up early for aesthetics, not collecting harsh quotes, not watching powerful men talk about power, but making your knowledge visible in a form reality can answer. That is why the next question is not, how much do you know? The next question is, what form will your knowledge take? Because until knowledge takes form, it remains a private possession. And private possession does not change your position. A product changes position. A tool changes position. A system changes position. A portfolio changes position. A case study changes position. A public skill demonstration changes position. A sales page changes position. A finished offer changes position. A body of published work changes position. Something another person can use. something another person can inspect, something the market can respond to, something that makes your claim visible. That is where power begins to move from imagination into consequence. And once you understand that, the examples become clear. Gates and Allen did not control the birth of the personal computer wave. They did not control the timing of history. They did not control every force around them. But when the wave appeared, they had the ability to build inside it. That is what Machiavelli would recognize as capacity under changing fortune. Fortune may create the river, but the prepared man builds the barriers before the flood. The unprepared man watches the water rise and calls himself unlucky. The prepared man does not merely see opportunity, he has something ready for opportunity to use. This is the difference between interest and power. Interest says, I understand what is happening. Power says, I have built the asset this moment requires. And this distinction matters now more than ever. Many men understand artificial intelligence. Many men understand content. Many men understand freelancing. Many men understand fitness. Many men understand remote work. Many men understand digital products. Many men understand personal brands. Many men understand high-income skills. But understanding a trend does not change your position. Testing inside the trend does. If you understand content, where is your published work? If you understand sales, where are your conversations? If you understand artificial intelligence, where is your tool, workflow, or service? If you understand fitness, where is the measurable transformation? If you understand money, where is the offer? If you understand discipline, where is the record? A trend is not yours because you noticed it. It becomes yours when you build inside it. Jeff Bezos shows the same law from another angle. He did not become rich because he admired the internet. Many people admired the internet. Many people knew it was growing. Many people could feel that something massive was coming. But insight does not create power until it becomes a test reality can answer. In July 1995, Bezos opened Amazon as an online bookstore. Wired reports that the site carried 1 million titles, and within a month, Amazon had sold books to buyers in every United States state and 45 countries. That is not just a business story. That is the anatomy of conversion. Trend became category. Category became store. Store became orders. Orders became proof of demand. Proof of demand became leverage. This is why vague ambition is weak. A vague man says, I want to start a business. A strategic man says, I will test one offer with one audience this week. A vague man says, I want to create content. A strategic man says, I will publish one video and measure retention, comments, and topic response. A vague man says, I want to become valuable. A strategic man says, I will build one visible skill proof that a client, employer, or customer can inspect. The difference is not motivation. The difference is measurability. Bezos did not test the entire internet. He chose a wedge, books, specific market, specific store, specific demand, specific measurable response. That is strategy. Strategy is not thinking big in public and acting small in private. Strategy is choosing the smallest real battlefield where reality can answer you. And this destroys another illusion. Many men think they are ahead because they understand where the world is going. No, you are ahead only when your understanding has entered the direction of the world as a working test. If you understand a market but have not made an offer, you do not own that understanding. If you understand content but have not published, you do not own that understanding. If you understand sales but have not faced rejection, you do not own that understanding. If you understand fitness but have not tracked transformation, you do not own that understanding. If you understand discipline but your week leaves no evidence, you do not own that understanding. You are renting the feeling of intelligence. And rent is expensive. It costs time. It costs confidence. It costs the years when your energy is strongest. It costs the reputation you could have built while you were still explaining what you planned to build. This is the silent cost most men never calculate. They count money, they count hours, they count subscribers, they count salary. But they do not count delayed proof. They do not count the lost compound interest of output. A video published today can become a body of work later. A sales message sent today can become a better offer later. A rough portfolio piece today can become a stronger reputation later. A weak application today can reveal what qualification you need next. A small product draft today can become a test, then feedback, then iteration, then income. But when you consume and delay, nothing compounds except guilt. That is why the first output must happen earlier than your ego prefers. Not when you feel ready. Not when the strategy feels perfect. Not when the fear disappears. Not when your family understands. Not when your friends respect the path. Not when your environment becomes ideal. Earlier. Because early output gives you early correction. And early correction creates earlier power. A man who waits until he is ready usually waits until the cost of starting has become heavier. The beginner stage becomes more humiliating with age. The blank page becomes more threatening after years of studying writing. The first sales call becomes more humiliating after years of studying persuasion. The first video becomes more threatening after years of watching creators. The first application becomes more painful after years of imagining a better career. This is why delay does not protect you. Delay increases the emotional price of the first attempt. The longer you preserve the fantasy, the more painful reality feels when it finally touches it. So the strategic man does not worship readiness. He engineers contact. He makes the first attempt smaller, sooner, and measurable. He does not ask, how do I avoid looking bad? He asks, what can I produce that gives me usable feedback? That question changes everything, because now output is not a verdict on your worth. It is intelligence gathering. A weak response is not humiliation, it is market information. A failed attempt is not identity death. It is the cost of locating the next correction. A rejected offer is not proof that you are worthless. It is proof that your message, skill, audience, timing, or offer needs refinement. This is how a man stops treating reality like an enemy. Reality is not there to flatter you. Reality is there to train you. But it only trains the man who enters the field. The hidden man cannot be trained by the market. The silent man cannot be corrected by the audience. The private man cannot be strengthened by feedback. The man who only consumes can only be emotionally stimulated. He cannot be strategically sharpened. This is why output is how knowledge becomes visible. Knowledge must become something reality can inspect, not thoughts, not feelings, not private notes, something visible. A published video, a sales message, a portfolio piece, a product draft, a client conversation, a job application, a skill practice rep, a case study, a tracked metric, a measurable transformation, a first paid offer. Until knowledge becomes one of these, it has no market value. Information is potential. Output is asset. Information is private. Output is public. Information can make you feel advanced. Output proves where you actually are. The market cannot buy what you understand. It can buy what you produce. This is the law most intelligent men hate because it removes their favorite excuse. Being smart is not enough. Being informed is not enough. Being deep is not enough. Being misunderstood is not enough. Being unsupported is not enough. Pain does not make you powerful. Insight does not make you dangerous. Potential does not make you undeniable. Only converted knowledge does. Converted into skill, converted into proof, converted into reputation, converted into leverage, converted into something that changes how reality responds to you. So now the question becomes practical. What counts as output? Not learning sales, sending 5 sales messages, not learning content, publishing 1 video, not learning coding, building 1 small project, not learning fitness, completing 1 tracked workout block, not learning business, interviewing 5 potential customers, not learning discipline, keeping 1 measurable promise when your mood does not cooperate. The difference is evidence. Output leaves a trace. Consumption disappears into mood. If it leaves no evidence, it did not change your position. That does not mean every output succeeds. Some outputs fail, but failure with evidence is useful. It tells you what reality rejected. Failure without output is only imagination, and many men are not afraid of failure. They are afraid of specific failure. They can tolerate the idea of failure in general. They can even speak nobly about failure. But they avoid the exact failure that would reveal their current level. They avoid seeing no views. They avoid hearing no. They avoid sending the application and receiving silence. They avoid publishing and being ignored. They avoid selling and being rejected. They avoid the first measurable standard because it would end the private negotiation. But this is where self-command begins. Self-command is not the feeling of being powerful. Self-command is the ability to obey the truth after the feeling disappears. This is where minimum viable discipline matters. Most men make discipline too dramatic. They imagine the perfect routine. 2 hours of deep work, a perfect morning, a perfect evening, a complete life overhaul. Then fatigue arrives. Pressure arrives. Work drains them. Doubt returns. The routine collapses. And instead of building a smaller system, they look for a bigger emotional charge. They watch another video. They write another plan. They announce another reset. They wait for another Monday. Minimum viable discipline is different. It does not ask for the largest routine your ego can imagine. It asks for the smallest action that creates evidence. Not the largest action that makes you feel impressive. The smallest action that reality can verify. Because discipline must survive your weakest day. It must survive the version of you that comes home tired. It must survive the version of you that feels unseen. It must survive the version of you that did not receive approval. It must survive the version of you that wants comfort more than transformation. A system that only works when you feel strong is not discipline. It is emotional weather. Minimum viable discipline begins with 1 output lane. 1, not 5, 1 lane for the next 7 days. Content, freelancing, sales outreach, skill practice, portfolio building, better job applications, product creation, fitness transformation. Pick 1. The reason is simple. 1 lane creates force. 5 lanes create self-deception. A man who chooses 5 directions is often avoiding the humiliation of committing to 1 measurable standard. If he chooses content, he can be judged by publishing. If he chooses sales, he can be judged by messages sent and replies received. If he chooses portfolio building, he can be judged by completed sections. If he chooses applications, he can be judged by real submissions. If he chooses skill practice, he can be judged by repetitions. If he chooses fitness, he can be judged by tracked action. One lane removes hiding places. Then define one measurable output, not a vague intention, not work on my business, not improve myself, not be more consistent. Those are fog words. Fog words protect weak execution. Define an action that leaves evidence. Publish one video. Send 5 outreach messages. Build one portfolio section. Apply to 3 serious roles. Practice one skill for 30 minutes. Write one sales page block. Record one skill demonstration. Complete one product draft. The output must be visible, countable, and finishable. If you cannot measure it, you can hide from it. And if you can hide from it, your mind will protect itself from the truth. Then use the 1-to-1 rule. For every 1 unit of learning, create 1 unit of output, watch 1 lesson, apply 1 tactic, study 1 sales concept, send 1 sales message, learn 1 editing technique, edit 1 clip, read 1 chapter, create 1 action from it, study 1 fitness principle. Complete 1 workout block. The rule is simple. Consumption must pay rent through output. If it does not pay rent, it is entertainment wearing a suit. This 1 rule can expose your entire life. Because suddenly the video you watch is no longer innocent. The course you buy is no longer automatically productive. The book you read is no longer proof of growth. Everything you consume now owes reality a payment. If it teaches you something, it must change something. If it changes nothing, stop calling it progress. Then set a low-energy minimum. The minimum must be small enough to survive fatigue. 25 minutes of work. 5 outreach messages, 1 edited clip, 1 page written, 1 skill rep, 1 application, 1 customer question, 1 measurable improvement. This matters because ambitious men often build systems for the imaginary version of themselves. The version that slept well, the version that feels confident, the version that has no pressure, the version that is not emotionally tired. But your real system must be built for the man who still has to move under pressure. Do not design discipline for your best mood. Design it for your worst predictable day, because that is where self-trust is rebuilt. Not in heroic bursts, in repeated evidence, 1 completed minimum, then another, then another. You stop needing to believe you are disciplined. You have records, you have receipts, you have proof that you can act even when emotion is not on your side. Then use if-then execution. Implementation intention research shows that if-then planning helps people translate goals into action, with 1 review reporting medium to large effects across 94 studies. The structure is simple. If I finish dinner, then I send 5 outreach messages. If I open YouTube, then I must publish or edit before consuming. If I watch 1 lesson, then I apply 1 tactic immediately. If I feel tired, then I do the minimum version, not 0. Discipline begins when action is pre-decided before emotion interferes. Because emotion is a terrible commander. Emotion negotiates. Emotion delays. Emotion asks whether you feel ready. Emotion asks whether today is the right day. Emotion asks whether anyone will care. Emotion asks whether you should research more. Emotion asks whether you deserve rest. Sometimes rest is necessary, but many men do not rest. They retreat, and then they call retreat recovery. If-then execution removes negotiation. It gives the weaker version of you fewer decisions to corrupt. And finally, track evidence weekly. At the end of the week, do not ask, did I feel inspired? Ask, what did I learn? What did I build? What did I publish? What did I test? What did reality reveal? What improves next week? Emotion fluctuates. Evidence accumulates. A man who tracks evidence cannot lie to himself for long, and that is exactly why he must do it. Because the old identity survives through vagueness. It says, I am trying, I am learning, I am preparing, I am figuring it out, I am getting serious, I am almost ready. But evidence asks colder questions. What was shipped? What was sent? What was practiced? What was measured? What was improved? What changed because you learned? This is where the old identity dies. Stop calling yourself disciplined because you consume disciplined content. Stop calling yourself ambitious because you study ambitious men. Stop calling yourself strategic because you understand strategy. Stop calling yourself dangerous because you know the language of power. Knowledge that creates no output is sophisticated avoidance. Build, publish, sell, practice, test, measure, improve. That is how a man becomes visible to reality. And visibility is the beginning of leverage. The world may still doubt you. Let it. Your family may still misunderstand you. Let them. Your friends may still treat your ambition like a phase. Let them. Your environment may still be slow, distracted, and small. Let it be. None of that prevents one output. None of that prevents one measurable action. None of that prevents one piece of proof. The unsupported man loses when he turns lack of support into permission to stay theoretical. He wins when he turns lack of support into proof discipline. No one is coming to give you a clean beginning. No one is coming to certify your potential. No one is coming to force your private intelligence into public evidence. That is your work. And if you are the kind of man this channel is built for, stop confusing learning with progress. You already know knowledge matters, but your problem is not lack of information. Your problem is conversion. If you keep collecting truth without producing proof, you will become a man with explanations instead of results. Inside Patreon, you get deeper, unfiltered breakdowns on discipline, proof, reputation, leverage, and self-command, so you can turn private ambition into visible power with a sharper system. This is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who are done hiding behind preparation. The decision is yours. Now understand the final distinction. Rich men do not collect knowledge to feel powerful. They convert knowledge into measurable output. But this is not only about wealth. It is about respect. It is about self-trust. It is about reputation. It is about freedom. It is about becoming the kind of man whose life no longer depends on being believed before he has built. The old man waits to feel ready. The strategic man produces evidence while still uncertain. The old man asks for validation. The strategic man builds proof. The old man says he is misunderstood. The strategic man asks whether he is still unproven. The old man consumes truth to feel strong. The strategic man obeys truth until strength becomes visible. That is the shift. From informed to effective. From private ambition to public proof. From potential to position. From delay to consequence. From fantasy to real truth. Machiavelli's realism is dangerous when misunderstood. A shallow man hears Machiavelli and thinks only of manipulation, cruelty, domination, and ego. That is not strategy. That is insecurity with a darker vocabulary. The deeper lesson is structural. What is real? What is visible? What creates consequence? What survives pressure? What changes your position? What does your reputation prove? What have you actually built? Real truth over imagination means you stop judging yourself by the emotion you feel after consuming content. You judge yourself by what your discipline produced. Capacity under fortune means you stop waiting for the perfect mood, perfect timing, or perfect clarity. You build the asset before the opportunity fully arrives. Appearance versus reality means you stop pretending. Advanced ideas make you advanced. You make ability visible through proof. Reputation over intention means you stop expecting people to respect what they cannot verify. You build a record of completed work. Control of narrative means you stop letting your saved videos tell the story of your ambition. You let your shipped output tell it. Strength before security means you stop waiting until you feel safe to publish, sell, apply, or test. Strength is built by contact with reality. Power before wealth means you stop chasing money as fantasy. You build the capacities that make money possible. Skill, proof, demand, reputation, leverage. Knowledge alone is not power. Knowledge is only potential energy. Output converts it. A man who learns and does not produce becomes heavy with unused intelligence. A man who produces from what he learns becomes dangerous because reality begins to answer him. Even silence answers him. Even rejection answers him. Even failure answers him. And every answer gives him the next move. That is how progress becomes real. Not by feeling inspired, not by watching another man's discipline, not by admiring another man's empire, not by saving another quote, but by forcing one piece of knowledge to enter the world today. One lane, one output, one measurable action, one low-energy minimum, one if-then command, one weekly evidence review. This is not dramatic. That is why it works. It is too small for your ego to worship, but strong enough for reality to measure. And when repeated, it becomes a record. The record becomes self-trust. Self-trust becomes consistency. Consistency becomes skill. Skill becomes proof. Proof becomes reputation. Reputation becomes leverage. Leverage becomes freedom. That is the chain, not motivation. Conversion. So do not ask how much you learned. Ask what your learning produced. Do not ask whether you feel ambitious. Ask where ambition has left evidence. Do not ask whether you are becoming powerful. Ask what has changed because you know what you know. And before you leave, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment the one measurable output you will complete in the next 7 days. Do not comment a fantasy. Do not comment an identity. Do not comment a plan designed to impress strangers. Comment the proof. Because the man you claim to be needs evidence, and until your knowledge produces output, it is not power, it is delay with better vocabulary.